You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Presented by Betano, it's time for the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill looking to recap the Leafs Flyers game, looking ahead to the back-to-back here against the Washington Capitals. What's going on, Rosie? I almost forgot what day it was.
It happens. It's going, man. I can't say I'm enthused about breaking down that game in any way, shape, or form, but here we go.
Do you have newfound respect for John Tortorella? You already had respect for John Tortorella.
I did. I think that I think he had inside information on the leafiness of this organization and how they're capable of losing games, but it paid off for him. What a massive risk for a head coach to take, like, spotlight, reason to kind of say, you know, what are you doing? Team's doing all right, but they're kind of hovering around that playoff spot. And then he just makes the boldest move ever the day he comes back from a suspension. Ballsy move. And of course, against the Leafs, it pays off for him and he looks pretty smart.
Even though it worked out, I don't agree with it. Like, especially
No.
Sean Couturier. Like, why did you name this guy captain like a month ago and then a month later you health bomb him? Like, I just think that's a shot in the nuts. Like, yeah, it worked for one game for Philadelphia. Long term, I'm just not sure it works. But I mean, Torts does know how to push the right buttons. You know him rather well. Other players we've had on the show know him rather well, and they all support him. But it's just decisions like that remind you that there is an expiry date for John Tortorella. That day will come in Philadelphia where players are not responding and he'll be subsequently canned. I'm sorry to say, but it's true.
Yeah, it's happened more than once. I didn't think he was going to get another shot at coaching after his Vancouver stint, but I think he's been able to reinvent himself, and behind closed doors, I'm sure he says the right things. You know, he's got Stanley Cup, Jack Adams awards. Like, he's got the pedigree. He's been in the game a long time. And to be honest with you, I mean, he shoots from the hip and he doesn't play the media bullshit game by any stretch of the imagination, but sometimes he goes a little far, and it's like his post-game interview, he's like, I'm not talking about anything to do with Couturier, and I'm not talking anything. If you want to say, it's just not. He says, I just put the team together that I thought was best going to win the game, and I just don't think it's that simple, and it's not. And it's a big decision to do that, and there's consequences and aftermath of making that decision. And whether they got the 2 points last night or not, he is now dealing with a captain who is not clearly frustrated. You hear Coots' interview? I mean,
Yeah,
clearly frustrated, clearly upset, clearly lost, clearly not on the same page. So not a great look. And even if, let's just say, that move did get them the 2 points and they would have lost that game otherwise, what does that mean to the guys that are not playing? What does that mean to the future and the relationship? What does that mean to the team? What does that mean going forward if you're trying to make the playoffs? It's just a lot of negativity to come around for risking working with some young guys and sending a message to the older guys. So the aftermath of it, whether it worked or not, is just not worth it in my opinion. Like, and he said, I'm not worried about Coots. I'm not worried about, well, he's the last guy in the world I'm worried about. Well, after that interview, maybe you do need to worry about it. Maybe you need to have a sit down and a talk and try to figure it out. But I don't think Torts is the one to sit down and kind of get everyone on the same page. He just calls it black and white, says this is how it is, and that's the end of it. And I think that's why his shelf date has always been, you know, kind of came up in a hurry when he's acting like that.
it's funny for Mr. Accountability. He doesn't want to speak about a big time decision. Like, that's what got me. It's like, you make a decision like that, I get it. Okay, do it. But please tell everybody why you did it. Like, the fact that it didn't even tell the players. Like, I don't. Again, it gets back to the point. Like, if you're going to name Sean Couturier the captain, why healthy scratch him a month later? But hell, it worked out, and maybe it was the perfect opponent for John Tortorella to execute such a move. A lot of people in the chat already requiring and asking for your breakdown of the Deslauriers Reeves fight. So I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, obviously, I think it was kind of set up in warm up. Obviously, I mean, the game before they were chatting, and I don't think they had really reason to go. And now it seemed like it was time to go. And whether it was from the previous game or the guys wanting to get it going, but irrelevant, they were basically setting her up. And to get scored on first shot of the game is deflating. I think if you were watching the game, you can see that and feel how deflating that is in the face. And that threw Revo right off his balance, and everything allowed Deslauriers to get a couple shots in as Revo's going down. But a very odd fight. The first thing that was odd was that grip being lost, and then, like, he was like pawing at his punches, kind of crazy. Like, you don't want to eat 5 while you're trying to get your grab back. You got to get in there and get a hold of that grab and get some space so he can't hit you. But odd that was the way it went down. And then the fact that during him trying, people are saying his eyes swollen shut. He's just got his eyes closed. I feel like it was probably scratched. The eyes don't swell shut that fast usually. So his eye was just closed as he's leaving. I'm sure it was scratched or something to that nature. And when you get that going, you can't even open it because it forces it closed because it's like wincing, it's damaged. It wants to have that eyelid closed to heal it. So that's my guess. And obviously he left the game there, and no shade towards Deslauriers or anything about that. You're swinging your arms around, everyone's flailing, you're trying to get a hold of something, purely accidental. But those things happen. Odd fight. Everyone's giving it to Revo. I mean, in my opinion, Revo won that fight easily, just based on the fact of everything that happened through the first 80% of the fight, just unloading on a guy who's basically in pure defense mode.
I thought there was potential to have like really really big tilt there, two heavyweights, and like with you, like they just struggled to find their footing in that fight, and it stunk losing Ryan Reeves. It's tough to say that because of the season he's had, but I think he's been really really effective the last month, and now you take him out of the lineup. Like what I would assume that's going to take a couple days to get back to normal, right? Like I wouldn't envision seeing him in Washington.
I doubt it unless it's something that just cleared up really, really easily and settled down and there wasn't a whole lot of irritation. If it was like kind of a scratched eye, I mean, it's kind of got to be. He reaches out with his hand
Yeah.
open. I mean, MMA, you got to have your hands closed. You can't have them open for that reason, scratched eyes and stuff like that. And he reaches and you could see him get him right in the eye. I assume he has kind of a scratched eye. And I've had problems with that before. And sometimes it's just like, oh, good, that went away throughout the night, or else, no, this is like severely irritated. Now I need special drops and creams and stuff like that to get in the eye. So it just depends on the severity of it. But just based on the fact that he didn't fly off the ice grabbing his eye, I can tell it's not super, super serious. Just something that'll be like, can you keep it open and can you see out of it? Or is it constantly watering and wanting to close? Then obviously you can't play hockey in the NHL.
Okay, bang up job as per usual, breaking down that scrap. Jay Rosehill, Nick Alberga, again, the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take at the Leafs Nation 401. If you could subscribe on YouTube, hammer that like button as well. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, will pop up. Give us a 5-star rating too. That'd be great. Brought to you by DoorDash. It's time for the appetizer. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off to $10 in value and 0 delivery fees in their first order of $15 or more. When you download the DoorDash app, enter code NATION25. That's code NATION25. All in uppercase for 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms apply. So there was a lot of layers to that game against the Flyers. We could start with like the start of the game. Like how many times have we seen that, man, this year where it's like, boom, turn on the game, goal for the opposition. Like it's the same shit. And then what scared me more was like the post-game comments where it's like Sheldon Keefe again being like, I didn't have this team ready to play. When are you going to have them ready to play, Sheldon?
Good question. I mean, I heard like Matthew and I's talking about it. They talked about Couturier getting scratched and stuff. And they said, well, they're going to be a hungry team. They're going to be ready. I mean, that would be the message being sent to them. Like, don't like, it feels like a trap game or like a game that you're supposed to win is hard for this team to win. Not as much this season. I'll give them credit. They haven't been dropping the games to the Arizonas and the San Jose's and Anaheims and stuff like they did yesterday. But you could almost set your watch to a terrible defensive breakdown off the opening draw lately. I mean, it's breakaways, 2-on-1s, goals. Like, how do you give up a breakaway the first shift of the game? Like, you got to play tight. You got to play inside out because you want to get your legs under you, get your sweat going, be protective of those situations for the first shift or two of the game. And it's just constant, man. And it tells me like, who are you starting and where's their heads at? And I mean, then he starts, I think on the second, he started Brody and Morgan Rielly. And it's like, their defensive abilities together is just mind-numbing last night. And you're going to start them in the period when you have it's just so many blunders that I just shake my head at. And it was frustrating to watch. And yeah, the start of the game to get buried on first goal of the game just set the absolute tone to be chasing all night long.
It's funny, like watching that game, and we talked about it going in. Like, this is a bigger game for Philadelphia. The back's against the wall. You scratch all these veterans. You're fighting for your playoff lives. And off the get go, I saw one really desperate team in Philadelphia where it's like, we're fucking doing anything possible to win this hockey game. And then I saw a Leafs team just going through the motions. Like, this late in the season to provide an effort like that is somewhat scary. Having said that, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. They did get cooking later on in the game. They almost did come back, like the same old stuff. I thought a lot of positives to grab from that game. And I know I'm not Mr. Consolation Prize, like they lost the game, but in the grand scheme of 82, you're not going to have it all the time. But that was my major takeaways. Like, Philadelphia looked really, really desperate. And we phrased the podcast unlucky night because it's true. Like, I can't remember a night where the Leafs hit 6 posts, man. Like, even half of those go in, you walk away with a laugher.
Yeah, they hit the post. There's no doubt. I will agree with all of that for sure. But I'm telling you, the lack of structure in that game, I've never seen in the NHL before. I mean, they were just winging it. And I mean winging it. Like, not even your position. And in the NHL, being, a left winger, there is certain quadrant of the ice that you are responsible for. Like, and that's just non-negotiable. Like, this is your D-man. This guy coming off the half wall, you have to get a piece of. A guy's not even in the same zone, not even near it. You got defensemen flying across the ice to the other side, sliding down, trying to take away the lane up on the half wall of their partner's side. Like, it's just an absolute shit show. And I don't even think beer league hockey has that much of a wing it mentality. And I'm watching going, these guys don't have, non-negotiable assignments that you have to have in certain situations. And I mean, that's just standard in the NHL. Like, this is where you have to be. Like, that's the structure of it. And whether, you're in the offensive zone, we do a 1-2-2 forecheck, or we do a 2-1-2 forecheck. These are all identity type of things for an NHL team. Like, how do you play the game? This is how we forecheck. We're very aggressive, or we're more passive when we clog up the neutral zone. We left wing lock and shove everything to one side and wedge them out in order to create turnovers. All these different parameters are an NHL team's identity, and they are non-negotiable assignments on the ice. And then outside of those situations, you're free to be creative and let William Nylander do his thing. And that's just how it works. And last night I was watching going, there isn't a bloody thought for what is the structure that I'm supposed to be following in this situation. It was just fucking fly around, winging it, sliding, diving, not even being there. I mean, it's TV. I can't even find the guy. Where is this guy supposed to be? Can't even find him in the picture of the half. Like, it was mind boggling. And I was watching going, if you wanted to break down this in video the next morning, you could absolutely destroy those guys for their attempt at playing team hockey in the NHL last night. And I don't know if that will happen, because the guy that would do that is the guy that's supposed to be reinforcing the structure. So I'm not sure where they're at with Sheldon Keefe, but that was a big black cloud, in my opinion, last night, as far as how that team plays as a structure together. It was lost.
Do you ever sit down and just zone in on a single player? Like, I find myself doing that a lot with TJ Brody. And there was a shift last night, man. I'm like, is this guy there? Like, is he at the, what is it called? Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia? Like, does he know he's playing? And like, I don't know. I don't know what's happened to this guy. I mean, we know a bit of the backstory going on in his personal life, but it was one of those games where it's like, I don't think he has any clue where he's supposed to be on the ice. Like, I don't know how you go from a player a couple of years ago where steady Eddie, nobody talks about you, is the same in Calgary, to now where it's like every game, every shift. I said this on yesterday's show, like, he's this year's Justin Hull, where it's like you think he has nudes on the franchise and the coach and the GM because they just will not take him out of the lineup. And then they're using Benoit as an example, who, again, I thought was solid. Like, that was the final thing solidifying the spot for Simone Benoit. Like, I don't want to see this guy out of the lineup. TJ Brody, like, I think the writing is on the wall. He needs a reset, whatever you want to call it. And it's the same old shit, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's pretty scrambly out there, gets out of position. You look at his face and his body language, like he is constantly got the spotlight on him for screwing up or not being able to keep up with the play or missing the assignment or not reading, the lane or the pass or losing his man. And it ends up in the back of the net. And I do not like him playing with Morgan Riley because I'm sorry to say, Morgan Riley is guilty of being completely lost defensively at
Mhm.
times too. And as much as he has, puck moving ability and offensive prowess and can play with the big boys and power play and that kind of thing, which is fantastic. Morgan Riley's a great D-man. We're lucky to have him, but defensively, when he's not on, he can break down quite a bit. And you need a guy that can pick up that slack for Morgan Riley, help him out and pick that up and find his holes and bail him out. And TJ Brody is not the guy to do that. Like, why they're constantly together, I do not understand. I understand the concept of it. TJ Brody's supposed to be this defensive defenseman that can complement Morgan Riley's abilities up on the offensive side of it. That doesn't even remotely work. And why they're together, getting exposed time after time after time after time, I do not understand it. And I think now, especially with stuff going on personally in TJ Brody's life, it's an easy out for the coach to say, hey, I know you got lots of stuff going on. I feel like you're overwhelmed. We want to help you out. We don't want to put too much on. We're going to have you, sit out for a bit, organize some stuff in your life, get a breather, do some mental reset stuff, talk to our mental health professional person or a sports psychologist and get yourself feeling solid, ready, because we don't care about these games. We care about you in the playoffs, TJ Brody, and give him that breather that way and see if it can change anything, because doing this over and over again is just not the recipe for success in the playoffs. And yeah, it was a rough night for him, no question.
Mind numbing. I don't care that this guy makes $5 million a year or whatever it is. He's on his walk year. You don't have to like re up with him. If there's a guy in that lineup who's playing better, deserves more minutes, plain and simple, you play him more. Like there's no like friend zone anymore. Like to me, it doesn't matter. It's perplexing. It really, really is. It's like sometimes I feel like I'm watching a different team where it's like I understand it. Like I'm just a broadcaster. I'm just a podcaster. I just do a show with a former Leaf, but like I would think Sheldon Keefe and the coaching staff have tabs in this stuff. They got, video running, and it's like game after game after game. And then again, it drives me nuts. And dude, we always talk about this. It's like one little mistake by somebody. It's like, you're out, David Kampf. You're not playing tonight. Nylander, let's hold you accountable. Like, you can't pick your spots. You're either going to hold players accountable or you're not. And again, the chat's been on fire with Sheldon Keefe the last couple of days. He's done a great job. Again, everybody talking about the point percentage. I get it. I think Sheldon Keefe is a great coach, but the perfect example is Edmonton. Woodcroft, had an incredible regular season record, one of the tops in NHL history, and they still fired him. And look at that team, right? So, like, I don't know. It's just like I feel like Keefe's lost his message. Like, the team just doesn't respond to this guy anymore.
Well, you have to decide and make your mind up on, does they have that unbelievable record? Is Keefe a reason for that? Would it be worse without Keefe, or is that a product of, the team he has on the ice and the skill? Clearly this team is a very good regular season team. So you have to decide that. If you're the powers that be, is the record and the points that have been racked up in the regular season because of Keefe, and so much so that you don't want to lose him and risk going the other way? Or did you get those points and stuff because of the players on the ice and Keefe was there for the ride? And if you continue to see that type of product of last night, the decision will be easy. I'm not hating on Keefe. I'm not calling for him to get fired, but that performance puts a big spotlight and opens the conversation wide open, because that I cannot get over the way they played that game. And I understand they're behind the eight ball and they're trying to get back in the game, but the it was an absolute circus. I'm watching like the structural part of it, and I'm just in shock at some of the decisions. The guys just winging it. Let me try this. Let me try that. Oh, I don't need to be there. I'll do something. I have never seen anything like it in pro hockey. And I know they're very skilled, and I know you don't want to handcuff guys to a really rigid system because skilled players don't love that. But it looked like they have never even had a practice. They've never had a meeting. They've never been on the whiteboard. They've never had a video session. That's what it looked like last night. And that's just so unacceptable of a top handful of, a top handful team in the NHL. They're, well, I don't know what the hell they are in the league, but they're top 10, and you just can't do that. It's unacceptable, man. That game was a big step back in my opinion. And I haven't said that about the Leafs in a long time. They've been playing pretty solid. Win some, lose some. I'm okay with it, but that was just egregious.
It was a giant moose. It's like going out to Taco Bell, just ripping your asshole apart, and then you're shitting your brains out for 3 hours. Like that's what it felt like. And then the worst part about it, like you can pinpoint JT, you can pinpoint Tyler Bertuzzi, but outside of that, they were dog shit. Like Samsonov too, and Sheldon Keefe's line after the game, he was like the group. I didn't like anybody tonight. Forward, defense, goaltending, didn't like anybody. And I thought it was kind of interesting that like Sheldon Keefe uses that game. Like there's been bigger shit shows this season that he really hasn't remarked and rebutted to, but it's like this one that he pinpoints. He's just really random, you know?
Yeah, kinda. And I think this, like, I would just way rather be obviously in the coaches' meeting afterwards while they're sitting around their desks, talking about it rather than his bullshit remarks to the media. Because nobody, especially in Toronto, you just do not, you think about what can I say to make sure there is not a ton of blowback, and everything's manufactured and manipulated. So it just, what they say to the media kind of means nothing to me. But yeah, at that point in time in the year, it's like they almost got back in it. They hit 6 posts. I understand all of that. I felt like the effort was there. It wasn't the effort. It was just how they went about the game and what they thought, where their mind went when they needed to get back in the game was, I am going to play shinny pond hockey, street hockey, wing and loop and shoot, and who gives a shit, see what happens. And I mean, you're sauce passing it up to the point on the last 2-3 seconds of the power play right to their guy. Like, and then over back check the shit out of it, and they still bury on it. Just things like that where it's like you are offensively powerful. You can score the goals. You can ring it up and hit 6 posts and get tons of shots and really, really exciting plays. But when you're just leaving the defensive side of the things to the wind and you don't have a very good back end defensive core to lean on, you're going to lose that battle. You're just going to lose that battle. If you play hockey that is non-defensive, that is just winging it, go wherever you want, no structure, and you're a high offensively powered bunch of forwards, which means you think offensive first and you don't have a good defensive group of D to lean back on, you're just going to lose that battle. And I think that's why they've found themselves in this problem so often. I mean, it makes for exciting hockey. Like if I wasn't emotionally invested in this team, how exciting was that bloody game? It was insane. You got a heavyweight battle, a goal off the first shot, back and forth, posts everywhere, insane, breakaways, 2-on-1s, and Nylander's dangling guys and sick. It was unbelievable to watch, but frustrating for Leafs fans, obviously. And of course, they came up just a bit short. So just a bad vibe of old times on that game.
Yeah, it was a reminder. I mean, there's a lot of room to grow, and the Leafs, I mean, you have to put things into perspective. The first time losing back-to-back games since mid-January. That's a pretty healthy run. You're not going to have it every night. They scored a power play goal, which I think is a positive, although, as you just mentioned, it led directly to the game-winning goal from Lawton. It's where they get really, really comfortable on the power play. Did you see anything specifically that leads you to believe that they're about to go on a run power play-wise here?
Nothing I could point to. I don't think even they would say, "Oh, we did this." Like they've been trying the same shit, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. And
Yeah.
you just need the floodgates to open, and hopefully they did with Nylander there. I think that's his 88th point. That's his highest point production in his career. And his Selly kind of said that he was, pretty pleased
Yeah.
with that one. So that's all good. It's good to
Woo!
get it going, but yeah, it just overall, I mean, just the game and the 5-on-5 and the approach to getting back in that game worried me because the power play is what it is. It will come back. It's not going to stay that bad. They're going to keep mixing up, trying things until something breaks and away they go. And I'm not really the one to break down, well, this is what works and this is what isn't. So I'm not so concerned about the power play, but just the overall mentality of the 5 guys on the ice, the 20 guys on the bench, and how they play hockey in the NHL against an opponent to give themselves the best chance to win. I was just shaking my head last night at that approach because it wasn't even there. And unfortunately, when you go down the line, it comes up with Sheldon Keefe.
Just got to bookmark it too, man. Like they 8 straight overs. The Flyers and the Leafs like scoring against each other. So I was particularly happy about that. I did not tail you, by the way. Didn't take the Leafs money line. There's just something fishy about it, man. I was looking at it straight in the eye before the game. Like I can't do this because Torts knows something, and then Sheldon Keefe and Nice come out with the comments. We're well aware of what they've done. I'm like, I knew they were doomed. And then Philadelphia scores like 19 seconds in. It's the same old show. It makes no sense for this team. Then you play like a juggernaut like Colorado and you go up like 3-0 in the first 10 minutes of the game. You just never know what you're going to get from this edition of the Toronto Maple Leafs. That is for sure. As they get set for the Washington Capitals, every All-Star needs a sidekick to support them, Rosie, just like every Wendy's meal needs a 6-piece of nuggets. And right now, Wendy's is teaming up with Daily Faceoff Fantasy to bring you weekly prizes like free nuggets, burgers, and more. Start adding a 6-piece to your Wendy's order for just $3.49 today. Sign up for Daily Faceoff, sponsored by Wendy's and the Wendy's app. So a couple different approaches to this one against the Capitals. The second of 3 meetings this season. The last one all the way back on October 24th, a 4-1 win for the Maple Leafs in Washington. Again, the Maple Leafs 27-6 on the road. And the expectation here that Joseph Woll is going to make his first start in 13 days. I know a lot of people stunned that Martin Jones got in there as the backup last night, but that's just getting a guy against his former team on an NHL bench. That's all I saw.
Yeah, like was there a rumor of Woll getting hurt in practice?
No, it's like they're carrying 3 goalies. Again, what the fuck has Martin Jones been doing for 3 weeks? Put him in there. Like go stargaze. I don't know, on the bench. Eat some popcorn, man.
Was it just to throw him in there? Yeah, kind of odd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to see Woolsey in there. I mean, so he hasn't played since the Boston deal.
Yeah.
Like
Crazy,
2
right?
weeks, man. I've been kind of hounding that the last week and a half. Like he needs to get in there and get going because, Sammy's not bulletproof as well as he's been playing. And, you do need 2 goalies. And I don't think anyone's argued that it's probably going to be some sort of a 2 goalie system. And Woolsey's been out since like December 11th, and he's got just a bit of a sniff. And one of them I didn't think is fair, back to back against Boston's, both losses. And then 2 weeks you don't even give him a shot back at it, which I don't agree with that mentality at all. I think Wool is a guy that you need to kind of get up there and try to get him at par with Sammy, and you've given him no opportunity whatsoever to do that since coming back from injury. So I don't agree with that. You could say that about Keefe as well. Maybe that's a blunder in my mind, but here you go. You get a chance now. He's probably rusty. He's probably, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you take 2 weeks off, you could be a weekend golfer. And if you don't golf one Sunday and it's 2 weeks off, you got to try to find it again and figure it out and find your rhythm. And you think an NHL goalie, that times that by 20, so he's going to try to get in his form, but I got my fingers crossed for him. I want him to get confidence. I want him to be playing solid. He's very capable of it. So I'm excited to see him tonight.
Yeah, it feels like a sneaky big start for Joseph Woll. Since the high ankle sprain, since coming back 1-2-0, 3.36, 8.81, especially the way Samsonov played in Philadelphia, it just feels like a swinger type game where it's like if Woll plays well, then maybe you go back to Woll. And I think this is what you want, like an internal competition as you lead closer and closer to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think we'll get that. I mean, as Woll gets back into the swing of things, I don't think time off is a bad thing. I think he talked about it the last 24 hours or so, just, practice time, what's that done for his game, and, rounding into form and shape. I don't have any issue with that. I do agree with you. Like, it's just weird how it went, but I think we both agreed sometimes you have to ride the hot hand. So now I think the pendulum could swing the other way if Joseph Woll can turn in a really, really solid performance against, mind you, a really, really hot Washington team. Like, if you thought Philadelphia was desperate, I expect a desperate Capitals team tonight, with the caveat, of course, they're coming back after a 5-game Western trip. So I think if they survive the first 10 minutes, it's game on in that one.
Yeah, I mean, the Leafs don't typically do well against very hungry, desperate teams, right? They get kind of overwhelmed and they want kind of a track meet, loop and shoot type of game. And, with Woll, you put him in a position now where I understand taking it easy on his ankle and easing him in. I do get that. But if he's ready, he's ready. If he's not, he's not. I don't, if he doesn't get say they lay an egg in front of him and he doesn't get the win, now he's got 3 losses in a row, doesn't have a winning feeling in the last 3+ weeks. it's ugly. You're setting him up. It's a big like, oh baby, if he loses this, there'll be chatter about it. There'll be talk. There'll be spotlight on him, and that's just not great for a young goalie in Toronto. And I think they've kind of set him up for that. And it all comes down to the back-to-backs against Boston. I know you're trying to get him one of those big wins and triumphant things. That man, it's a tough spot they're putting him in. Not the end of the world, but a win against this team would be very nice, particularly for Joseph Woll.
What are the chances we see a Joel Edmondson video tribute tonight? He played 44 games as a member of the Capitals.
I don't know, and I don't care. So like, I don't know. I think it's the PR team. Just like, it would be hard to come up with an entire game worth of
Here's a
stuff
shot
on the
block.
Jumbotron. Here's the thing. Yeah, we could do this, and then everyone gets on board. Everyone else is doing it. Let's do it too. So go for it. Like, who benefits from that? The players kind of embarrassed almost. They don't like standing up and fucking waving or whatever. The fans are all like, oh yeah, I guess, yeah, he was, oh yeah, 40 game. It's not like you're usually it's a guy that's been playing there for 8 years who went on the historic playoff run with you and blah, 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 and all these memories, and you show him and he stands up and everyone stands up and says, yes, we remember you. You were a huge part of it here. And we respect the fact that even though you're on the other team now, we'll clap and say thanks for the memories. That happened once in a blue moon. Now it's like, every guy that used to play for us, get him on the Jumbotron. I just think it's fucking dumb, but what are you going to do?
It was funny a couple weeks back, Nico Mikkola got one with Florida returning to Broadway at the Garden. He was dealt last year in the Tarasenko deal. He played like a handful of games, and he was stunned as to why he was on the big screen. Like, he almost forgot he played for the New York Rangers. And I'm telling you right now, Joel Edmondson played 44 games. I know him as a St. Louis Blue. I know him as a Montreal Canadian. I barely recognize him as a Washington Capital. I know he's a Maple Leaf now, but like, it's just a quick thanks, man. Like, I don't even think the players even care, but I'm just so curious about that. But I'm just more curious about this Leafs team. And it's kind of peculiar too, man. They actually have a better record in the second game of the back-to-back than they do the first. So that leads me to believe they're going to put forth a good effort. And again, they better be hungry. Alex Ovechkin, speaking of hunger, you saw it, you witnessed it in person in Calgary the other night. 19 straight 20-plus goal seasons. Pretty fucking incredible. I want to see Austin Matthews score a goal tonight. I just want to see this team get its mojo at the right time. And it was just one of those reminders, a humble reminder. There's a lot of work to be done between now and the start of the playoffs, of course.
Yeah, I would like to see a 60-minute effort, right? I would like to see them in control of the game for the vast majority of it. Austin Matthews controlling the puck, getting on the scoreboard, just kind of overwhelm a team, like just be in control, just clearly be the better team. I would like to see that. And I like the fact they get a crack at it tonight, because there's not much worse than, hanging around and having a day to think about it and waiting to see if you can redeem yourself after a performance like last night. It sucks to have a big gap. So I've always liked back-to-backs for that reason. And like you said, for some reason, the second part of their back-to-backs have been more successful and fruitful than the first. So there's reason to believe that. But I agree with you. Eyes on Austin Matthews. I'm not saying he's in a slump or anything, but he just hasn't been able to find the back of the net for a little while. And if he can get that going tonight, I think that would set the tone for this entire Leafs team to take control and get the win here and forget about yesterday.
I don't know about you. I've become numb to the line changes. Like, I know social media was freaking out because we saw Domi, Matthews, Bertuzzi. I'm like, whatever. Like, it's going to be different next game. So is the power play. I don't even read into who's on the ice anymore. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't really look. And especially with Reeves gone, then you're going to have to jumble some things up. I honestly, like, when there's something that's going on, I have to look to see who the player is, because you just can't rely on, oh, well, I know who's on his line.
I know.
I can't rely on that. I'm like, well, I'm not sure which guy's with him on this particular shift. So you got to double check all the time. And yeah, I don't really put into it, but I was thinking, and you're seeing a lot on Twitter, the conversation of Mitch Marner and how much of him and his play and his presence is it helpful, and to what degree with the Toronto Maple Leafs team. And we've been hard on Mitch. Not so much lately, because I think that he has smartened up. I'm hard on him when he makes fancy, dumb, soft, low percentage plays. He has not been doing that lately, and he has been, found his setting as a playmaker and as a disher and as a guy that gets that puck to the guys in the right spot, and a guy that can make other players, specifically goal scorers like Austin Matthews, that much better. And every big goal scorer needs that guy. And Marner seems to be that guy for a lot of these players on, on the offensive side of this Toronto Maple Leafs. And having him out right now, I think, is noticeable. And it's fair to mention that for sure.
It is. And Matthews is just doing weird things, like the 2-on-1 with Domi, maybe the best chance of the night. And like,
I know.
dude, you score every fucking second shot. And you're gonna feed Max Domi, who I could tell you the percentages are not in the favor of Max Domi scoring a goal there, regardless if the puck hit the defenseman or not. Cam York, I think it was. Just fucking shoot the puck. Like, the hesitation is what drives me nuts sometimes. And it always leads you down a dark, narrow path where it's like, what's going on with Matthews? Is he not feeling it? Is he hurt? It was just weird. But then you're like, wow, what a smart play. But I mean, you just want to see Matthews blast that puck and shoot that puck, especially on a 2-on-1. You want to think percentages in your brain. Is it going to be Matthews? Is it going to be Domi? I'll take my chances with Matthews.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's hard to question his thought process out there with his talent level. He felt like he was in a position to make one more play to guarantee a goal. And I mean, if that doesn't hit his shin pad and Domi just buries that, he had the whole net to shoot at, it would look pretty good. But no, I noticed that sometimes. I mean, watching Huberdeau in Calgary, he doesn't even look at the net. He's just always looking. He could just have a backdoor tap in and he's looking around for the next dish, man. It's frustrating. And not saying Austin Matthews does that, but yeah, when you have a guy like him, you're like, maybe you should be the one to shoot it. I feel like you're best suited for it, but we'll see how it goes. Again, I feel like maybe he's trying to pick up the Mitch Marner slack, or all of a sudden he's trying to make more plays rather than just finish them, which is obviously easier with Marner in the lineup. So we'll see how it goes, but I want a response tonight. I want some structure. I want some goddamn discipline to a system. And it leads me to believe they don't have one. Like, I don't think they have one. I think that Keefe just kind of says, you got to go hard and you got to be first on pucks and you got to have sticks and lanes and you say all that shit. But like, where and when? Like, where is the guaranteed non-negotiable? This is where you are in this situation to prevent X. I just don't think, like, that's just driven home in most NHL clubs by coaches. Like, this is the system that I have invented, and how much in depth you want to go towards that is up to that particular coach. Some guys hate it when you have a really disciplined system that guys have to follow, because it stifles creativity. But the more I watch the team, the more I feel like I think he's just given them, like, he's a player's coach. You guys know best. You guys are really skilled. You guys got to come together. But there's got to be some sense of structure and formation and identity. And I really question if they, like, the level that they have of that, if any at all, because I just don't see any attempt at being consistent in certain areas of the ice. And yesterday was just a shining example of that. So we'll see how they respond.
Let's take our weekly look at the Atlantic Division standings, brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and unbeatable pricing policy. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. So in terms of point percentage, the Leafs would still play the Boston Bruins, but in terms of points in general, the Florida Panthers are second right now, Rosie, in the Atlantic Division standings. I don't like either opponent. I certainly don't like the Florida Panthers. I don't think the Leafs match up well against them, but again, we've talked about this a lot. Any given night, the Leafs can beat anybody, so I don't really care about the first-round opponent. Do you?
But if you could just, in a perfect world, back off and say, what are two opponents in the whole Eastern Conference? What are the bottom two, the last two that you would want to face? The least, like, anyone else, 1 to 16. What are the two teams that would be 15 and 16 dead last, the last ones that you'd want to face in the playoffs?
We'll talk 8 teams in the Eastern Conference.
Sorry. Yeah.
Florida would be on that list, and Boston would be on that list. Carolina would be third.
Florida at the very bottom. To take the whole, 8 teams Eastern, but the whole East, the least teams that I would prefer to see in a playoff series, Toronto Maple Leafs, would be the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers, and they're the two ones that are guaranteed to play. Like, it fucking sucks. It's not right.
Dude, it in the grand, I understand what you're saying. In the grand scheme of things, like the way the playoffs are set up anyways, you're going to have to beat incredible teams. Like, we're going to see some fucking juggernauts lose in the first round. Have you seen what's going on in the Central Division? There's Winnipeg, Colorado, and Dallas, all separated by 2 points. You can make an easy and simple case, all three of those teams to win the Stanley Cup, but one of them at least is going to lose in the first round. Like, think about that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's tough. And I don't know, this time of year becomes kind of ho hum. And when they introduced this system of wild card, I thought, well, it creates some pretty big in division rivalries, right? And I
Mhm.
get that. But it's also at this time of year, there's not much jostling for position, right? Like before, it's like, oh, this week we're facing Washington. Oh, next week, oh, we're looking at the Rangers now, and look at the run they went on. This team fell, 4 or 6 points in the last little while, and now they're looking at facing the juggernaut of this team, and it's just more exciting, I think, and it
Yeah.
it leads to some wild swings at this point in the year, which makes kind of a dead time of the year more exciting and reason for guys not to be rested and what do you call it, load management and shit like that. Like this system, is ripe for that type of thing, which makes it kind of a yawn or a snooze fest or basketball type of mentality, which I do not like. And I really like it when you have the best team in the, conference playing against the worst, because that's how the 82 game season, it's such a long grind. It's 82 bloody games. You should be rewarded for that in a pretty big way. And then, it's always awesome to see, the upsets and the, and to see the best two teams being in the conference finals. And it just seems like it makes more sense because if you play two, the third and the fourth best team in the NHL against each other, well, they can't both win, even though they're probably deserving to. And then some average team gets to go to the second round. I just don't love it lately.
I get it. They would face Carolina, by the way, as producer Vic writes in, if it was the 1-versus-8 format, which again, we saw Carolina over the weekend. We're going to see them on Sunday. Some good teams. There are some good teams. And again, the old format wasn't great either. I think that's what people forget because the reason why they did it was a team like Carolina would have like 85 points and finish third in terms of the standings because they were a division winner. So like everything's going to be flawed. People are going to find an excuse to hate everything. And that's sort of my logic, my reasoning. We'll never see 1 against 16 because of travel. But I think maybe you make some tinkers to it. But at the end of the day, there's just because of parity, there's a lot of really, really good teams in this league in both conferences, namely in the Western Conference. And good teams are going to lose. And I just wanted to add to wrap on the standings. Don't forget about the Tampa Bay Lightning, man. They have won 4 straight games since the trade deadline. Anthony Duclair has proven to be a fantastic pickup and scoop from them, from the San Jose Sharks, and they're 5 points back of the Leafs after that victory in Vegas last night.
Yeah, interesting, man. We'll start to really watch. If someone goes on a tear, there's reason to, like I said, with this situation, you get complacent and kind of shrug your shoulders, say, well, we know what's happening here, but things can change. And if someone goes on a little tear, you kind of check and go, what's going on here and what's possible? So a team like that with their pedigree and history and experience level, they could put the hammer down and shake things up.
Let's talk about rule changes now. This segment brought to you by Tim Hortons. Roll Up to Win is back for Tim's 60th anniversary. I think it's going to take me all month to say Roll Up to Win, not Roll Up the Rim. Roll Up to Win back for Tim's 60th anniversary. And to celebrate their big year, you can win some big prizes like an all-electric Volkswagen ID4, a sun-soaked Hilton getaway, and cash with a daily jackpot of $10,000. Play today on the Tim's app. So the NHL and Board of Governors got together in Florida, I think, the last couple of days, and they're pretty much going to propose 6 rule changes to the NHL's competition committee and Board of Governors. 2 new coaches' challenges will be proposed to review puck over glass and high sticking penalties. Teams would be able to challenge if they believe the puck hit something on the way out. On a puck over glass call, additionally, a team could ask to review a high sticking penalty if it's believed there wasn't an offense committed by its player. In both cases, which I think is interesting, the team would go down to a 5-on-3 if the call on the ice stands. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't really understand that. I think they just want to not have it happen all that often. But you're going to see teams waste their time out to double check on their iPads what they think.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to go upstairs. And I think they will waste a timeout because the, risk of going to a 5-on-3 is pretty hard. So it sets up. I don't think it'll happen that often, but it sets up for some wasted time for sure of the coach trying to figure out if they want to do this risky challenge. That's going to suck up some time. And then you're going to go to the penalty box to go upstairs to go to Toronto and check it out to see if it is. I don't know. It's negligible, but yeah, you want to get calls right. I understand that.
A rule change taking immediate effect is a ban on players having legs over the bench while not on the ice. A team will first be warned before a bench minor is assessed. I don't know how you're going to address that or police it, but
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I've always thought hockey's pretty cool how
it's a
it's just
safety thing,
kind
though,
of,
right? Because of the skate blades.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And I mean, whatever. You have to regulate, and one guy gets whatever. But it is what it is. There's no reason to have your leg over, but when you're the next guy out, it's nice to kind of have your leg and you're kind of ready and then you're off. And I've always thought it was cool to the line changes like, well, what are the rules? There's probably a rule if it's 10 feet or whatever, but just kind of when the guy's there and he's close enough, he's out of the play, the next guy jumps and it's just kind of seamless. And if you ever watch a hockey game with someone that doesn't know the game, they're looking at the bench going, what is going on down there? And how do you know? And like you say, one guy's sitting on the boards with his leg over. It's kind of cool. You can't do it anymore. No big deal. But yeah, I don't know. Regulation, safety, all that shit.
Boy Soul writes in, a skate over the boards recently cut a referee. That's why the rule change came in and was immediate. Okay, I get it. For the rest of those rules, go out and Google them. I'm not going to list them off. The one rule I would implement, I think you have a cap of like 2 minutes on the board and the fans count down. If you can't come to a proclamation on a video review, fucking move on. I don't need to wait 15 minutes, kill the momentum of my night, my game, the players' night, what they have planned after the game. Just some of these reviews, dude, take so long. I'm watching the Edmonton game last night. Or no, it was the Tampa game, and they're reviewing the empty net goal for Kucherov. It took like fucking 10 minutes. Like I turned the game off. I'm like, I can't do this. It's an empty net goal, and we're deciding if he high stick the puck. If you can't come to a conclusion in 2 minutes, we'll say, then boom. You just can't find concrete proof. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's always weird when you're at home and you're looking at, they find the right video angle and you're like, oh, there it is. Without a doubt, it's over the line. That's it. Done. And then they just sit there for 5 more minutes. It's like, what are they looking at? Like, why don't they have access to what we do? And I would like it if like the NHL just had, like the PGA Tour has like the official rules guy out there and he's out on the course. And when he comes in, what happened? Boom, this is the end of the deal. There's no arguing that's the end of it. He's got the power to do that. Have 3 guys or whatever in a room in Toronto, which they already do. They send the reviews back to Toronto. It's got nothing to do with the Leafs. It's just where the headquarters are. And then have them ready like through every night of an NHL game. And as soon as there's maybe a discrepancy, their job is to go back and already have that 10 minutes worth of shit done. And then if they do go upstairs, what happened to Toronto? Nope, it's definitely offside. Thank you. It is ruled offside. End of story. Not let's let the ref take his fucking helmet off and get some ear guards. Like, I don't like it either. It's total waste of time. And I worry that some of these new policies will lead to a little bit more of that.
It's fucking goofy, man. It's absolutely goofy, and it's funny. They get together for these meetings and all this shit. You're telling me not golfing and getting boozed up. Yeah, right. And it's like the things we don't want to see anymore, like the shootout and a longer OT. Like there's never any resolution. And there wasn't any resolution to 3-on-3 OT where we're sticking with it. I think a lot of people in the chat make some good points. I would love to see the roller hockey 3-on-3 where there's no offsides. That'd be really fucking cool. A longer OT. Like we're just not seeing changes to what we need changes to, I think.
I wonder what that would do. And you could pilot program it in the American Hockey League, which they do a lot of. I've been part of that while they're trying things out in the American League, trying to see how they work before they introduce them to the NHL. But I'm just thinking about 3-on-3. Like it was super exciting, still is. I think a lot of people like it. I think that it's not as exciting as teams kind of get adapted to, what works and what their strategy is. But if you were to take the offside out, it would be basically like 2-on-2 a lot of the time. Like Nylander would be hanging out at the top of the circles in the other zone clapping for it. But be pretty interesting, man. Maybe something to try in exhibition games. I don't know, but you don't want to dick with it too much. There is like the spirit of the game and whatnot. But at the other hand, if it like even the 3-on-3 was controversial, like what the hell is this? Like some kind of bush league. It's pretty cool, man. People like it. It's exciting and entertaining, and you really get to see the skill, and you actually get usually the whole point is to get the outcome of the game decided in a quicker fashion.
I'm all in on the gimmick league, man. Like We got shootouts. We got 3-on-3 OT. We got dudes trying Michigans. We got dudes fucking dancing after they score goals. Like, why not go all in? Like, just take everything, take all the rules out. No offsides. Let's take the refs out. Let's just start playing fucking roller hockey.
Let's just be a circus out there. I think the Leafs might like
Pretty
it,
much
actually.
is. The Leafs might win that league. They would win the cup every year, right?
I don't know,
All right.
man. I'm
It's
focused
time
on
for our Great
Washington.
Clips inbox question of the day, Rosie. And Patrick G.
Ooh.
Mafia, one of our favorites, writes in, who will be in net for game 1 for the Maple Leafs? What's your answer?
I think it's up in the air, man. I think it very easily could be Joseph Woll, depending on what happens in the final. What's left? 14 games or something. Yet to be decided. I mean, Sammy right now, it's kind of, he has obviously been the front runner to have the crease. I think a lot of that has to do with wanting to ease Joseph Woll back. But in that final 10 games of the year is going to tell the story and be the deciding factor. Who's rattling off the wins? Whose save percentage is higher? Who's making the big saves at the right time? Who looks more calm? Who looks more poised? He's going to be your guy.
I'm going to go. Well, Patrick was looking for an answer first and foremost. So, okay, you gave me an answer. I'm
Too
going to go with
goddamn bad,
Joseph
Patrick.
Woll. Joseph Woll
Oh,
is my answer. I think
I
now is the
lean
time for
towards that
Joseph
too.
Woll to find his footing. I think he's going to go on a hot streak. I think he's the future. I think they made it be known that he's the future. And if he can get his game up to snuff, I think Joseph Woll is going to start game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So there's
I was
your
kind of
answer right there.
leaning. I was leaning towards that too. Yeah, and it's not just because of last night or anything. I just think this guy is kind of special, and I think that if they give him a chance here in the last 10, I think very likely he can go out and snatch that job.
For more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips, it's going to be great, which leads us into the Betano wrap-up presented by Betano.ca. The game starts now, 19+. Please play responsibly. Major announcement, Betano is the official partner of Copa America 2024, taking the beautiful game to new heights in the Americas. Join Betano on their journey of passion, unity, and unforgettable football moments. I like the Leafs to win tonight in regulation. I think we see response. I am backing Joseph Woll. And I think we see a Matthews goal tonight with Ovechkin in the building.
Ooh, yeah, nice. Very likely, very probable, very possible. I don't mind that at all. I don't bet like hard or heavy. I kind of do little trinkets here and there and see how she goes and see if you can just be winning more than you're losing. But last night I hammered down and said, all right, let's see if we can build up the account here. And God, did I get PP whacked? Like at least I got the over, but man, did they disappoint last night. Every time I put like heavy faith, like, oh no, Leafs are gonna produce, baby. I'm gonna hammer them. I get clipped, man. It was ugly.
So you talk about clipping. Full disclosure, Rosie roasts me on a daily basis because I'm not afraid to bet against the Leafs. And I kid you not, I've won my most money this season betting against the Maple Leafs. Like it's an easy fade sometimes, and I've been racking up the coin. You just can't bet with your heart, man. You got to bet with your head sometimes.
I know, but I just refuse to bet against the Leafs. So maybe and a lot of the time, a lot of the games I don't bet at all. I just felt last night I felt wrong. Apparently,
It's okay. I guess Carter Hutton went on the Leafs Nation After Dark yesterday with Zach Phillips and called Ilya Samsonov a third-string goalie. So that'll raise some eyeballs for sure. Good on Hutz to go on there. I remind all to check out the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips tonight, as well as the Leafs get set to take on the Washington Capitals. And also coming up tomorrow, Mr. Game 7, Justin Williams is going to drop by the show, Rosie.
Yeah, that'll be cool. See what's going on with him. Pick his brain a little bit. That's interesting. Good.
Hey, I was going to tell you too off air, but I've tracked down Cade Weber. We're going to do something with Cade Weber, who they picked up from Carolina. Next week, we're going to have him on the show.
Nice. I like that, man. I like when we get those college boys out before the Leafs can shut it down.
Hey, Cade, how horny are you to block shots? He's a shot blocking machine, man. Like this interview, I'm actually looking forward to. Like, how did you practice blocking shots when you're 15, Cade?
I don't know. Some guys just have it, man. When I was at that game the other night with my buddy at the Flames game, someone has blocked a couple of shots, and I was just like, I just don't think I ever blocked a shot that hit an actual piece of protective equipment. I told my buddy, I was like, I'd rather fight twice in a game than have to block shots like that. Like, screw that.
Hey, I should have mentioned it was my beer league playoffs, game 1 of 2 on Sunday, and I blocked a shot. I'm like, never again, dude. Like the puck hit off my skate, but dude, you know when you get like it's buzzing in your foot, and I'm like, fuck, I'm on the bench. I'm like, is this thing broken? But I got over it. got over
Foot
it.
goes numb. Well, we almost made it through a show without you mentioning your beer league.
I know, but the
extravaganzas.
boys love it. The boys love it when I bring up the beer league. The folks in the chat enjoy it quite a bit. Our season's on the line on Sunday. It's game 2 of 2 in this mini series, and we were like the Leafs in game 1. We surrendered 2 goals in the first 3 minutes of the game, and we played catch up, losing 4-3. But tune in on Monday's edition. I'll let you know what happens in the playoffs. Okay.
You should have your show about the beer league. The beer league results, a whole separate podcast.
That's the next pitch, dude. Because again, not to get into it, we played a team. They had a guy wearing a suit on their bench. He had a cast on his hand, almost to tell everybody that the guy's injured, but he's wearing a suit on a fucking beer league bench. And these guys showed up with a full fucking team, 3 forward lines, 4 defense. And then we're off the opening draw, and the guy had the audacity to ask me, hey, did your team forget it's the playoffs? I'm like, dude, I'm 34 years old. It's St. Patrick's Day. I don't want to fucking be here. And I was there. So there's your
Did
answer.
your team forget? You're not taking it serious enough for their liking, apparently.
Apparently not, but everybody who plays beer leagues knows there's a team like that in their league. We'll leave it at that, Rosie. I want to see a response tonight for the Maple Leafs, okay?
Looking forward to that.
Sounds good. That's Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Again, Justin Williams coming up tomorrow. Thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys were phenomenal as per usual at the Leafs Nation 401. Thank you to producer Vic, and we'll talk on Thursday. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.